How's it going, everybody? I am Akiva Edward Conwell II, also known as Mac, and this is the Startup Mac Vlog, episode number 7. And I have my co-host with me.
Hey everyone, it's Alegado. Just call me Kate. Nothing shorter than that.
And just to do a quick introduction, I am a serial startup entrepreneur. 4 years in, I'm also a software engineer by trade. But for the last 4 years doing the startup thing, I've been a CEO. So I like to call myself a hacker turned hustler. And Kate,
We're
tell us
doing
what you do.
intros. We're doing intros.
We're
I didn't
doing
know
intros
that.
because I want the people to know about what we do and why they should care. And
We
listen
don't
to
need
us.
to know. But in that case, as Akiva is a serial entrepreneur, I am a solo entrepreneur and a digital marketing strategist. So think broad scale marketing from project management to somewhat web development, but more so on the front end. So I would say that I am a wannabe programmer, but that's why I have Mac Vlog. So
That's why she has me around. You're also a social media specialist, which reminds me we're going to have to do a talk on social media and engagement and all that good stuff. And Google
Yay!
Plus, since Kate is like the only person I know who's an advocate for Google Plus.
You
We can talk
know
about that
what?
another time. We talk
Okay,
about
we'll talk about that another time. But let's talk about what is it? Work-life balance, time management, and priorities. Just because I mean we run into that every single day.
yes. So today's special blog is going to be about work-life management, work-life balance, time management, all that good stuff. The stuff that entrepreneurs and even key business people are just bad at, really bad at. But we're just going to talk about the real about being an entrepreneur and trying to start a business and how work-life balance isn't always balanced, even though everybody tells you it should be.
No, that's surely not the case. But I know that
No. Come back, Kate. What happened?
oh no, am I still here? Am I here?
You're here. Yeah.
Okay. What is this? Okay, this is what I get for using my phone, guys. This is the second time. But no, okay, as I was saying, you had a full-time job while working on a startup, which was given at one given moment. So how in the world did you balance that? And I know that there are so many startup owners or startup entrepreneurs out there that are just wanting to pick up a side project.
So how did I balance this? Yes, I used to work a 8 hour, a regular 9 to 5 job as a government contractor. And this is the early days of giving, probably for the first year and a half, actually. First year and a half, almost 2 years. Over the span of the 4 years, no, 2, maybe 3 of those years, I had a job while working giving. And work-life balance was tough because I would go to work, be at work all day, and then the initial beginnings of the project, I was also one of the developers. So me and my two co-founders, all three of us developed. So I would go to work and code all day, come home, and maybe relax for a little bit, eat dinner, then code for another 4 or 5 hours, or until I got too tired, or until I looked at the clock and realized, oh my goodness, it's 3 o'clock. I need to go to sleep now, or else I'm not going to get any rest and be able to go to work tomorrow. And I did that for years, and it was tough. It was really hard. It becomes work-life balance for when you're working on a project like this or starting a business becomes really tough on your personal life because you just don't have as much time. And whenever you're working on your project, it's your baby, so you want to put all your time into it. So then, like, you might not spend as much time with friends or go out as much, and those are things you can deal with. Um, Close friends who you might be used to talking to like on a regular basis, maybe every other day, you might not talk to as much. And sometimes your friends don't understand that and they find that difficult to deal with. But those are things you can kind of get past. The hardest thing about it is starting new relationships, like building new friendships, because you just don't have time to get close to people, and having relationships with significant others. Because your significant other typically wants your time, they want your attention in some form or fashion, and it becomes really difficult, like to be up at night coding and then hear my girlfriend or actually my fiance at the time wants to call me or text me, distract me in some way. And that's not the way you should look at it. It shouldn't be a distraction. It should be you spending time with somebody you care about. But at times it can feel like a distraction. There was a point where, and even now, I don't go to movies because it's so hard for me to sit still for a 2 hour period and not be doing work. Like that becomes difficult because you're always thinking about it like, oh, I should be coding or I should be at this event. But you have to make time for those things, and sometimes it's hard. I know for me and my significant other at the time, I tried my best to make time for it. Like, there were certain days of the week where I wouldn't work as much, and we would have our time. We had one day a week that was just about me and her. She got one day every week, no matter what. And even for me, that would be difficult because you build up this anxiety inside of you because you're so used to working all the time that when you're not, it's like, I know I can finish this thing if I do it right now. I can have it done and be on time, but I need to make time for my significant other. But the parts where work-life balance gets really, really hard is when you have random things happen. So that's like when you have date night. So let's say you and your significant other have date night set up, and you have already planned to go on a nice date. You have it set aside, and then the day of date night, you win an award, or you get accepted into an accelerator, or an investor tells you like, hey, I want to get up with you tonight. I'm in town for the day. I'm in town from San Francisco for the day. Why don't we go catch up for a beer? Those are events that are extremely important, and sometimes you don't want to miss those events. And that's when you have to make the personal choice. Do I miss this meeting with this investor who I might not get to see for another 6 months to a year? Do I not go to this award ceremony, pick up my award, show face, and be part of the community to spend time with my significant other? Or do I hope that my significant other understands, what's going on, and, maybe they'll join me, or, maybe we can reschedule? Those become difficult. It definitely puts strain on my relationship. How about for you, Kate? Since you're an entrepreneur, it's a solo entrepreneur, which is really tough. You pretty much do almost like freelancing, so you're always looking for the next project, the next gig. So having your name out there, being out there in the community becomes really important. How do you manage networking, meeting people, finding time to put your brand out there, but still finding time for your significant other? Not to mention, you're also part of the armed forces, which brings a whole nother level,
Oh, I know.
of responsibilities. So how does that work for you? Like, what are your difficulties, or what do you see?
You know what? I would say that in terms of branding myself, like the first 6 months, I always tell people, and starting off as a solo entrepreneur, I really just jumped in, and I'm going to be honest, it was complete hell. Just trying to find stable projects that could be potentially long-term, or projects that are building relationships where I know a good friend that would make me their like go-to marketing person. So the first 6 months was absolutely stressful in terms of finding the clientele. But in all honesty, though, I'm on the like contrary in regards to Mac is that I have a very, very supportive significant other. So pulling in those 16 hours a day, or having to tell my significant other that I have an event to go to at 7 tonight, or I have to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. They're very, very understanding. So I kind of got the good side of that I really don't have to worry about it. This continued support even to this day, and I've been a solo entrepreneur for honestly about good 2 years now. So that's good on my end. I would say that in terms of, I wouldn't, balancing the.
No, just when I was getting to the really good part. We seem to have lost Kate, but she makes a really good point. When you are an entrepreneur, having a significant other that understands and wants to be supportive and is there for you is very important. You need to know what level of attention your significant other, and all your personal relationships need from you. And knowing that going in, knowing that going forward, and being very honest with them, being very honest, letting them know that you are going to work a lot, that you might not have as much time, that things will be difficult. Those are things that you just have to have open conversations about. And and know that sometimes there will be sacrifices from both your parts. Um, I currently have a significant other who is very supportive and who's very much
What
there for me
happened?
all the time. Oh, Kate's back.
Oh
Um,
my God! What in the world is going on? I
I
love
don't
these
know.
technical difficulties.
I know it
Okay.
shows how live we are, but just to finish my point, I do currently have a significant other who is very supportive and who understands
Yes.
that I work a lot. But I understand that as supportive as she is, I need to make sure I treat her right, and that when I do have time, I make time for her. And that was one of the things I had to learn. I had to learn how to make time for the people in my life, which isn't easy, which isn't always easy, which can be, very difficult at times. But I had to learn how to balance out, not every event and not every meeting is that important. The significant people in your life are.
Mhm.
If your startup fails or your project doesn't work out, they'll still be there.
Yep.
And if your project takes off, they'll be there too. So I personally had to learn how to not get overly excited or overly down because I wasn't making deadlines or because I wasn't going to an event, but to enjoy the fact that I was spending time with people I cared about and understanding that that gave me a break and a relief from the stress that you build as an entrepreneur. That was very important for me personally, and that was a learning process. That's not something I had day one.
Yeah,
But
no, absolutely. I think relationships are absolutely key. And I think for those people, entrepreneurs or solo entrepreneurs, that sometimes it gets a bit lonely just because you're coding for so many hours or that you're networking or at these networking events, but you're not actually developing quality relationship, like that intimacy that you want with a best friend or a significant other. And if you're looking for a significant other and you're working on a startup right now, I would just, I don't know, Mac, would you say that like you just don't force it? Like, I mean, if we're gonna put kind of like relationship and love into this and having that work-life balance, is that it'll come to you,
yeah, don't
right?
don't go looking for it. Like if you're working your startup, stay focused, do your startup. If it happens, it happens. You meet a lot of people during your startup journey. You gain a lot of experiences, and you get to go and you have a lot of opportunities coming your way. And along the way, you might find that special person, who may be in your field, may not be in your field. It's always crazy how you meet that special person. But like I said before, when Kate wasn't here, when you do, just have the honest conversation about how much time you do have, what things you can and can't do, how much you do work. And if they want to make some kind of, if they want to come to some type of agreement with you where, you can make a compromise, compromises work. Compromises make this work. There's a great story out there about Mark Zuckerberg and his current and his wife when they were dating. When he started his company and things were growing, she gave him a girlfriend contract that he signed, saying that he was going to do certain things, that he was going to call her and spend so many hours on the phone with her a week, and that it wasn't just all going to be through text, that they would get to go out, once a week, little things like that she put in the contract just because she knew he was busy and that he wouldn't have time. And for her, time was more important than what he was than the money he might bring in someday. She wasn't just going to sit around because he's going to be rich one day. She wanted it to be a real lasting relationship. And to his credit, Mark signed it and he lived up to it. And now, he has a wonderful wife who has her own career and it's amazing and they're amazing together. And that's the one thing I guess we're all looking for. And to know that in your personal life, especially with your significant other, you are going to have to make compromises. But I have a question, Kate. Do you ever find yourself in a position where your significant other is telling you like, hey, I need some time? And how do you react to that if that ever comes up? Like how does that handle?
Bah! We're just getting really, really deep into this conversation.
Hey,
Um,
work-life balance. This is the real, raw, uncut, like not the happy-go-lucky roses and daisies about being a startup entrepreneur and everything's fun. Like there are difficulties, there are hardships, there's a lot of great to it, and there's a dark side to it.
no, absolutely. I would say that there's a bit of like a conflicting choice on my end because one, I'm very much of a giver. So if anyone were to ask my time, I unfortunately sometimes I'll drop whatever I'm working, especially if they need me in whatever particular way and just tend to their needs or tend to that moment that they really particularly need Kate time. But when it comes to my significant other, on getting that quality time, they know, like you said, it doesn't have to be in contract, but at least there's some understanding that it's like a give and take, especially when it comes to entrepreneurs, is that it's all about investment. So if I provide you the time that you need, which in all honesty, we all need that. It's just that as entrepreneurs, we definitely put it to the side. So at the end of that moment or that time period that you're spending time with them, is like, it might suck, but after that 3 hours or even a full day's worth, your system actually needed, like your body and your mind really, really needed that at that given moment. And we completely disregard it. But like I said, it's a give and take. So if I give her the time or him the time, I need to make sure that I compensate that back in terms of I'm going to put that same amount of time in catching up my work. So if I have to stay up a little late or wake up extremely early to compensate that time, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah. When your significant other tells you, like, hey, I need some time, I haven't seen you, you make it work. Or you shouldn't be in a relationship right now. I know a lot of startup entrepreneurs who aren't in relationships because they don't have time. They don't think they have the time for it. And everybody's different. Everybody's workload, everybody approaches this differently. Like I said, it was something I had to learn, and I'm grateful that I did because my significant other is wonderful. She's there. She helps me work that harder. You know, I can do more because I know she's behind me. So definitely. So let's talk about time management. So
Wait, I do have a question to that. So regarding time management, this is for you because this is my biggest issue as a solo entrepreneur. So any solo entrepreneurs out there that are listening onto this, I have, and maybe you, if you resolved it, then please do chime in. But I have the biggest issue of not knowing how to say no. So I get piled up with so much.
Yeah, because you definitely said yes to this vlog without any resistance.
Yeah, no.
Not that you really had a chance to, but you know, I was just like, hey, Kate, really. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. You're like, okay. I was like, oh, so you ask any questions. Perfect.
But honestly, though, when you asked me that, I was working on a project which I should be finished. I was hoping to finish it today, but it might delay. But I will. Yeah. How do you help me out with that? Saying no. I have issues, guys.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This isn't for me though. This is for the fans and the people who watch us and want to hear what we have to say. And I'm sorry if this one's not as practical as our last one, which was about cold emailing and cold tweeting. But
wow. Yeah.
This is very. You know, our vlog is going to span all facets of being an entrepreneur, being a startup entrepreneur, at least early stage. How do I say no? I used to be really bad at saying no. I used to be really bad.
You used to be a yes man.
I say if somebody needed help or somebody wanted me to come to an event or do a speaking or wanted some mentoring, I would say yes. And the thing was, at some point, you look at your calendar, because I live by my Google Calendar, because I can't function if it's not on my Google Calendar.
Me too.
And it would just be full. My day would be full, and I didn't have time to do work. When the things I was doing were getting away from my work and advancing my business or advancing my ultimate goals, then I realized, like, hey, I can't do all this. And I'm still pretty bad at saying no, but what I found is I'm not nearly as active in the community as I used to be. Which I'm still active, people still know me, people still see me, and I go to events and show face, but I don't go to 4 or 5 events a week anymore. And without being seen as much, people don't ask me as much as they used to. You know, I'm not the first guy they think about anymore. I'm still pretty active on social media, so people still see me, they know what I'm working on, but I've kind of pulled myself back so that I can be focused on my work. And a lot of people tell you, like, when they first get into a tech community or when they first start their company, they're very active, they're very out there, they're getting their name out there, they're getting their face out there. But there comes a point where you just have to bog down on work, and then you don't see them for a couple months. And people just assume, like, oh, they must be working. They're assuming 2 things. Either working really hard or they just quit. Those are 2 things that people assume.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, everybody just assumes that I'm working really hard, which I am. They see my they see my statuses on Facebook and my tweets, so they know that I'm working really hard. And when you're working hard and you have your head down and you're just tunnel visioned on what you're working on, people don't bother you as much. And then even when people do reach out to me and want me to go do some events, I've just had to learn like, hey, I would love to be there, but I'm sorry I can't. I would love to help out. It's difficult, but you just have to be able to prioritize and steadfast on those things. And you find out when you do that, you do get a lot more work done. And the more successful you are at doing the project you set out to do, the more people are going to appreciate your time when you do give it to them. So that was big for me, Still learning that how to handle all that, how to handle saying no. But I've learned that when I say no, people appreciate me more when I say yes. And that's
So I need to work on that because I'm in the early stage that you've already passed through, where I am not the yes man but the whoa man. I just say yes to everything. But whoever's out there, don't ask me because I'm going to say no.
Tweet her. If you tweet her, she'll answer your tweet. Don't worry. Tweet her.
I really would answer, but I have to maybe tweet me so I can practice saying no. But I'll say no in the most very
she won't say
condescending.
No. I say tweet her because in 140 characters you can have a short conversation with somebody without saying no and without taking away from your work. That's why I like texting.
Yeah, but texting's so bad. You don't right now talking to you is so great. Relationship building and time management, but it's so rich. I mean, I can't give you a bear hug or anything, and this is the closest that we get.
Pretty much these days, and considering you're all the way out there in Virginia and I'm here in Baltimore, all the way in Maryland. Not that we're far apart. We're only about an hour away, but the hour becomes difficult when your time is so valuable to you.
Absolutely. So think about commuting. Commuting sucks. That's a lot of time out of your schedule.
Yeah, commuting is a whole lot of time out of your schedule.
Oh yeah.
So talking about time management, like I said, I do everything by my calendar. Everything. Even personal things. Like if I'm supposed to go to a cookout with my family, or if I'm supposed to be going on a date with my girlfriend, it goes on my calendar. Just so I don't get things crossed up, just so I don't forget about it. Because I don't want to be at an event or talking to somebody on Facebook and they're like, hey, you want to meet for coffee? And I say yes, and we set a time. Then I look at my calendar, and I don't put it on my calendar. I'll have 2 or 3 things booked at the same time. And it always feels crappy when you have to write somebody back like, hey, I know we said we were going to meet this time, but I can't. Can we reschedule? Here are 3 different dates to choose from.
I hear.
So crappy. So you want to try to avoid that. And so I would say, that is a big one. Having a calendar, having a to-do list. I know when I have a to-do list present for me, I get more stuff done. So I use sticky notes. I write down every day what I want to do on a sticky note and put it on my computer. So I visually see it. And as I finish things, I scratch it off. And I almost never finish my to-do list ever. So there'll be things that'll be on my to-do list for 2 weeks at a time straight. But it's still there. I know it's there. I know it's going to get done. Instead of me forgetting about it and then remembering it 2 weeks later, oh crap, I should have did that. So, to-do list. And also, with managing your time and people want to meet with you, especially when people want mentorship or people just want to meet with you for advice, I know a lot of people use Odesk. Odesk is a great tool where they can go on and see what times you have available and what hours you have open office. So every now and then I'll do open office, and Odesk is perfect for that, where somebody can just sign up and pick a time slot, and I'll already have set the location, and we'll meet up, and that just helps me manage things. But I mean, all the stuff we're talking about, work-life balance and time management, there's really almost no balance. I've been able to find this entrepreneur, it's always going to be skewed. It's always going to be skewed. But you try to not skew it too far because it's really easy to be all work and nothing else. And so the key is, yes, work will probably be the overwhelming number one thing you're spending most of your time on, but understanding how to take out a chunk of that time and set it aside for other things and other people,
Yeah,
because you
well,
can't be all work.
I would say that on top of the calendar, on top of all utilizing all these applications and also writing to-do lists to help anyone out, is that I think for me, especially in this relationship that we have, especially a very effective business relationship, is that accountability. May it be from a coworker, a friend, a family member, or in the beginning of our conversation, significant others. Even though they're asking a lot of your time, they do kind of give you like a check-in and say like, hey, can you give me some time? But then that allows you to actually think like, can I give time, or do I have to completely restructure my schedule for the week?
Right. And it becomes really hard because it's easy to stretch yourself thin. It's easy to say yes to your significant other, we're going to have this date night, but then you end up missing a deadline for a client, or you end up missing a release date on an app. You know, trying to balance those things out can be difficult at times. And knowing that it's going to be stressful. The whole idea of doing this is a stressful thing.
It
Um,
is. And I wouldn't say that we don't want to scare any entrepreneur away or anyone that's thinking of being an entrepreneur, but I think that this vlog, even though we're not very specific on a specific business tactic, but it's just the reality of being an entrepreneur, and it's not a pretty world. I would say that entrepreneurs are very, very good actors and actresses that make it seem like it's glorified and it's just a beautiful lifestyle. It's not. I think for us is that if we make it look easy, then hey, that's good. At least we know that we're putting extremely hard work and very, very long hours in doing something we're completely passionate about.
yes, make sure you are extremely passionate about what you're doing, because if you're not, it it'll come back. It'll show. It'll show, because when things do get hard, it's harder to push through. Because, like I said, this is stressful. It strains you in a lot of ways, but it's also extremely rewarding. I have to say, being an entrepreneur has been probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done professionally. But to the point about entrepreneurship being hard and not cool, anybody out there watching this, go to YouTube and look up Eric Ries at Disrupt. Entrepreneurship is not cool. So when Eric Ries, the author of The Lean Startup, when he released his book, he went to TechCrunch Disrupt that year. I believe it was 2011, 2012. And he did a short interview. It's about an 8-minute interview with the Next Web. Um, Look it up. Eric Ries at TechCrunch Disrupt. And in the interview, they asked him how did he feel about certain celebrities being there. So at the time, I think Ashton Kutcher was there, and Charmillionaire, the rapper, was there. And Eric Ries made the point to tell people entrepreneurship is not cool. It's not. This isn't a fad. This is something you have to make a decision that you really want to do, because it's hard. It's really hard. And at the same time, it's extremely rewarding. If you have the wherewithal and the persistence and the great mind and the great ideas to get out there and push through, the rewards are out of this world. And even if you don't make it to the promised land of hitting an exit or IPO or raising a ton of money, all the opportunities and all the things you experience are just out of this world. Out of this world. So yes, it's hard. It's stressful. It's not fun all the time. It has its fun moments. It's definitely not cool, but it's rewarding, and it's something I wouldn't trade for the world, and it's something I'm gonna continue to do, probably for the rest of my life. This is probably what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, through the ups and the downs.
I would want to chime in. I feel as if we're going towards the end of our conversation. But for anyone that's thinking of being an entrepreneur, and rather than just jumping into a 9 to 5 job, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, both Mac and I started off with a 9 to 5 job. I would say that if you want to jump in terms of getting into this particular lifestyle, because it's a lifestyle, most definitely, I don't know, tell me, Mac, if I'm wrong with this one. I would highly recommend for you to be a part of a startup. You just experience that kind of lifestyle.
I would agree. I think for some people, jumping in is the right decision. You're You'll learn some things the hard way. You'll gain some advice to keep you from learning some of the hard stuff, especially from us. But I will say I can't discredit the 7 years I had in industry before I started. You
Mm-hmm.
know, those things help prepare me professionally, and also understanding and being able to handle the workload. And I do wish sometimes that I had worked at a startup before I started my own, because then you get to see from the inside how the founders handle it, what it's like when you raise a little bit of money, um, how founders handle the ups and the downs, what it's like to grow the company, what it's like to have to scale it down. Because it's a very weird process, an interesting process to see a company go from being a startup to being a small company hiring its first few employees to becoming a mid-sized company where now you have an office space and up to 50 employees. You know, to being a large company where you no longer can walk in the building and know everybody in the building. Those are transitions that companies go through, and there are different skill sets needed for each transition. But being in a startup, being able to see some of those things, see how they happen, the good and the bad, definitely has an advantage. And also understanding the workload and the work ethic. Like working at a startup, you'll get a startup workload. You'll work those hours. You'll see what it's like. You'll see how the founders put in their time. You see how they might text you at 3 in the morning with an idea or a question, or say, "Hey, our server's down. Can you
Yes.
work on it?" Those are things that are different from the typical industry 9 to 5 that you might have. So having that experience, I would say, can be key. And it all depends on the person. I myself jump right into it. Kate, on the other hand, she kind of gradually worked into it.
Mm-hmm.
Had worked in a few startups, and each way is valid. Each way you gain a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. So it all depends on the person.
Absolutely. And I wish everyone the best of luck. And for all the entrepreneurs out there, keep going.
I agree. So that concludes our 7th edition of the Mac Startup Vlog. I need to really call it Mac and Kate because Kate is definitely
No,
a
I'm
wonderful.
just a co-host.
Kate's definitely a
I ask
wonderful co-host.
questions.
But we'll be back next week. Please email us, tweet us, send us your questions. If there's anything you want to talk about, whether it be something really practical about setting up meetings or how to handle meetings or how to network or how to go about finding a co-founder or a developer, please send those to me. Or if it's something about how do you handle the ups and downs, what do you do on your free time, whatever it is that you want to know about startups or entrepreneurship or marketing or social media, please let us know. We'll be sure to talk about them and put those into our next editions. But that's it for today. So everybody have a good one.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.